We switch pod. The boys are back. How are you, Chris?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Quarters, like Coach Rassie said, feeling like a champion, So I'm good, man. I'm good. How's it going your side, Coach?
Feeling like a champion myself. Good myself. Good myself. The Dan
Hmm.
Carters of podcasting here to give your opinions, our flagrant takes, and of course, feel free to share your opinions and your takes. Yeah, and let's get some engagement going. Church announcements. You can find us here, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the socials. And yeah, we back to back like the Kappa logo. You know, we're moving, and the thing is, it was an important one because we don't
Yeah,
even know when the next rugby championship is going to be
yeah,
or
yeah. It
in
was very
its current
important.
form.
Yes, yes, So I think, yeah, it was much needed. I think that's what we all wanted. Um, is to see the guys go back to back. They did it for us, even though it wasn't the best game on Saturday, But at the end of the day, they got the job done.
Yeah,
They did what was needed to get the result. I think even looking back on it, it could have been more of a clear cut sort of championship win because outside of maybe let's say Ellis Park where it was total capitulation, but I think Eden Park that was a missed opportunity. We
yeah.
always look back at that because we saw from Wellington on we did three straight. So yeah, but
I don't know. I'm not too,
but we
but I'm
had
at the same time. I'm not too. I'm not too mad at that because it was a learning curve. They learned a lot in terms of
yes,
the first game in Australia, what happened, and then moving on, they obviously because they
mhm,
saw okay, there we just maybe we're doing too much running. We're getting the territory through running, but maybe we're doing too much running. Let's go back to kick game.
yeah.
Then we went to kick game, then they saw okay, no kick game, it's just too much kicking. Then we must go back to running in a bit, and they found the balance, especially when Sasha came in.
Yeah, yeah, they remember like what we were saying earlier that they didn't look as settled. They started to look more settled, and
Yeah.
that's the result on Saturday. Um, and yeah, look, we're champions. You can't help but not be but be happy. For the guys. At our home away from home. That's
Yeah.
effectively that Twickenham now is a home away from home, man.
Rugby HQ, I was fortunate enough to be in attendance at our
Yeah.
home ground. And I will say the
Hmm.
stadium was 90% South African. There were some Argentina supporters that also,
Yeah.
they lended their voice, they lended their drums. They were accompanied by the English, who also
Yeah.
took up arms with Argentina. But
Oh,
ultimately, the support it was
they stood against the
very, very South
Commonwealth.
African.
They stood against the Commonwealth. That's very suspect of these guys. You can't, this is your Commonwealth. You must be happy. It's your kids, yeah.
Besides that, like you said, for me, you just look at this game. How I look at it, Sasha, for me, the he was kicking a bit too deep. The kicks weren't as contestable. I
Mm,
felt like Reynold, he did a bit better with the box kick, but again, there were one or two that went amiss, which it kind of stops us from doing what we want to do because we want to
yeah,
progress in territory and then play from there.
yes.
And
Mm,
Argentina did well again to disrupt that kind of thing. They had good ruck speed. They were able, obviously, once
yeah,
they get the ball out of the ruck, then they're able to play. They got good running lines. They got guys that got a
yeah.
bit of magic. They got the steps. They got everything that you
They
need
can put you under
to
pressure.
trouble a defense, and put you under pressure. And they did put us under pressure at times.
Yeah, yeah, they did a lot. I think you saw that even in the first half. The amount of penalties, for me, that was a bit concerning. The amount of penalties that Argentina were able to generate when they had ball in hand,
Yeah,
especially in our half, where you could have thought, just a little bit better discipline, more, maybe better communication. Again, it's still part of the whole learning curve that they're going through, and it's like the coach said, it's good to learn whilst you're winning, at the same
yeah.
time, so yeah, look, you can't be too fussed about what was. You just be happy that we got the result. But it's a build up towards, like we mentioned earlier when we were talking of air that end of year tour is coming up. So
Yeah.
there's there's a lot still to come. And
Mm.
a lot to improve on. We'll celebrate this one. Of course. and be happy. But we know that there's still, I think, way, way bigger picture, and we're still going to see how important having a big squad,
Yeah.
having the guys that are experienced. I think we're still going to see a bit more of that, where because a lot of people have gotten a chance, a lot of people put their hands up, a lot of people shut up their critics. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of that. Even in the beginning, yes, it did look a bit shaky, at the start of the tournament, but I think yeah, there's a lot to like about how the dynasty is being built.
Yeah, and again, I'm not going to be too harsh on them in terms of the game was played a bit tighter in terms of
Mm,
even if you look at where they got their points from, it's from scrums and mauls, where
yeah,
typically even from the last game, you're getting tries from all over the place,
yeah,
kicks through, line breaks, all sorts. But this
mm,
game was a bit tighter. But again, it's a reflection of what the game was. The game was basically a final.
yeah,
So again, they needed the result, so they played like they needed the result.
yeah,
They showed moments of what made them effective in the past, I'd say 2 games, but
yeah,
they never fully leaned on that. But again, it's understandable because the stakes were high. The stakes were high in this game, so maybe that's what made them a bit more conservative than ultimately what we want to see and what they have been showing until now in the last few games.
yeah. And also, you must remember the energy levels, man. I mean, the travel as well. We mustn't forget those factors, because it's going to take a toll and expect them to play, at that high level, three
Yeah,
games in a row. Yes, they managed to back it up after New Zealand. They did it at home, and even the one at home, it was a slow burn up until it got hot. So, with all those factors considering, you can understand, how and why it was tight. And like you said, it was a final, and we saw a display of that. Like you said, going back to the basics, the contestables. Even though it wasn't so great, but the fundamentals are there. And it's good to see that we've got we've got many weapons that
yeah,
we can use. We can whip out different types of artillery, and I think that's where we want to see this team get to. Where you can see the opposition and dissect them and say, okay, these guys, this is how we need to beat these guys and do it.
yeah,
And get to that point, because I know I've seen that there's a lot of debate about the French and what, and that, but this team is the best team in the world. That's why they're number one. At the end of the day, that's what it is, and we saw as much on the weekend.
yeah.
They'll get the result when they need to get the results. They do, and that's a number one team. That's a championship team.
Yeah, like I said, during the game, there were those moments sprinkled through of what we want to see. And if we're talking about moving on to the end of year tour, I believe we'll see even more of that because it's just go out there and play, guys. There's no obviously you're playing for pride, you're playing to win, but there's no stakes. So
Mm.
in that, I think they'll just let the ball go more. They'll feel freer to have a go in those games, and also the opposition isn't quite. I mean,
Uh,
besides, I
France and
mean, we're
Ireland.
warming up against it's Japan, France, Italy, Ireland, Wales. So what I mean in that is that the Japan game, they're gonna let that ball go. The Italy
Yeah,
game, they're gonna let that ball go. The Wales
mm,
game, they're gonna let that ball go. You know
yeah,
what I mean. So
yeah.
it's gonna be a situation where I think we'll see a bit more of that. But obviously, it's depending on personnel. And talking about personnel, is there anyone that you'd like to see when we're talking about end of year tour? Is there any? Should we? How are we approaching it? Should we keep it like France game, Ireland game? Do we go with these same guys, or do you change anything?
Yeah, I'd say you go with the same guys, especially France Island game, because these are the guys that
Yeah.
got you the marquee results. You know,
And then
le, le, le,
the
le, le.
others.
The others, yeah, I wanna see. Let's see Manu. Let's see Manu Chituka, popping up. Let's see maybe a Vincent, even if he's just holding bags. But I'd like to see maybe a different type of variation of or combinations of players, because again, you don't want to run. Okay, Visa he can play extended run, but you don't want to run. Peter Steph into the ground. You don't want to run Sia into the ground. You know,
Yeah.
Visa he owes some minutes, so he must play. You know, but there's certain guys that like even a guy like Etzebeth, I think like he's done more than enough.
Mm.
You know, he's done in that jersey. He's done more than enough for me. You know, in the sense that we need to. And I've been calling for this. You know, and this yes, RG and them are there, but we need somebody that's going to step up to say, okay, I'm a serious contender for four to be the enforcer to set the standard within the team, and you know, and be that guy.
Come on,
And again, I
Murat.
think maybe you know, and we're gonna see. Yeah, no, we can see that Muraticism. Maybe it will come up because I mean, look. You know, there's jobs, man. There's jobs.
Yeah.
So you know, probably you'll see your born finters and those guys that play that side get more of opportunity. You know,
Mm.
I'm thinking like that. You know, is those horses for courses in certain instances or certain positions. So it'll be interesting, you know, to see who he picks. But I think so far, like even in the backs, I'm not too at the moment, there's nobody else that's outside that I'm saying no, he needs to get back in, you know. But more so with the forwards, I think it'll be interesting to see Chituka dynamic coming back in, you know,
Yeah.
even Amadu Chituka coming back in there or coming in there for the first time because I think he's got something to offer that could benefit the box. So yeah, I think most likely in the forwards, that's where we'll see, you know, maybe a few new names, one or two, you know, but yeah,
Yeah, for me,
it's
I fully agree with you though. It's just in the backs, Q and Horn, they've got to give him a go. I think, especially with Villy. Villy is like he's on his last, and you want to have round about three guys there. I mean, and
mm,
Fuss is
and
depending
Fuss
on
is out.
injury
Okay, yeah, I forgot
timeline,
about that. I forgot
depending on injury
about Fuss.
timeline.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So yes, so okay, yeah, like a Kieran Horn for sure. There, I can no, I can back you up there.
yeah,
your young
yeah,
lion
yeah, yeah. I
getting a
just want to hear
chance.
Dave. I just want to hear David Creel. I'm sorry, guys.
No, no, for what? For what? No. Because no, no, it's fine. He's good at the pools. He's very good at the pools. Excellent.
Yeah, I think maybe even Abisu Kubedewa got a man of the match, so hopefully we'll see him
Yeah,
feature as well.
you,
So there's guys, there's guys. We've
there's
got
jobs.
guys, as they
There's
say, we've
jobs
got
and there's
guys,
guys. You know, so it'll be interesting to see, man. You know, but I'm just glad that at least we got the rugby championship thing going on. You know, we've got the back to back. It's for me, quarters, like what I've been always been saying, it's this is an opportunity for that dynasty, you know, for the Boks to just to be that team that over a 10-year, 12-year stretch where,
Yeah,
you know, it's a tough team to play against, tough team to beat. They're the world standard, you know.
yeah.
They may not always be in terms of rankings at number one, but they set the standard.
Rankings don't even matter, man. Rankings don't
Exactly,
even.
but they set the standard, as akin to, that era of All Blacks where we all always almost every time knew what time it was,
Yeah,
and that's where this team, I think, yeah, they can get to that level, and be untouchable, man. The opportunity is there, the young talent is there. Yes, we all about the results, and yes, we got the result that we wanted, and we're also seeing that there's been a lot of things that are being tried. So on the balance of
things.
it, when you look at it,
Yeah, and I mean things that have been tried and things that have almost been cemented, because
yeah,
now you're starting to look at Kane and Moody in a 13 jersey, and things are looking
mm,
like. It could, we're trying things, but things could also be the groundwork for it to be cemented,
yes,
so we'll see how things progress, and who holds down their spot from the
yeah,
changes that have been made throughout. But yeah, if we
yeah, because
dig
that's what it's
deeper
going to
into
be
the
about, backing it up,
yeah, yeah, if we dig deeper into the game
Mm,
backdrop, Ox coming back into the starting lineup after withdrawing
mm,
match before. We've got the bench there. Williams fit again. Bongi back on duty. And then we've got Jesse Creel
yeah,
back on the bench. Yeah, at HQ, destiny in our hands. The money in Argentina's hands because it was supposed to be a game at home for them, but they opted to cash in. This one is
Yeah,
definitely not about spreading the awareness of rugby. It's
yeah,
more
no,
about spreading
yeah,
the funds of rugby. And yeah, I mean, from the beginning, high pace, high tempo.
mm,
Argentina, good ruck speed. Once they get the ball in hand, the running lines, the delayed passes, they
yeah,
just cause trouble. They just cause trouble.
yeah,
And Moodie, he's got that thing in defense where he can rush up and make big hits. He can cut off the attack. But in this one, player cutting back in, head contact, he's upright. Also, he's a tall fellow, so it's more
yeah,
difficult for those kinds
yeah,
of guys. In days gone
yeah.
by, a rugby incident, but here head on head contact, yellow.
Tough call for me. Tough call. Changing direction. For me, it was more a rugby incident in this, because that's what
Yeah.
happens in rugby. Defenses are, people
You're
are
saying tough
coming
call,
across
they
the
were saying
pitch.
red.
You know, I know, but for me, it's just if you look at it from the reverse angle, you can see
Yeah,
when he changes the direction, those are the things that happen more often than not. If that's where I'm getting it. These are things that happen more often than not, which
yeah,
for me would categorize it as a rugby incident. Because
yeah,
this happen it happens more often than it doesn't. Where player changes direction, defender is caught awkwardly. And at that speed, you're expecting a guy to drop his. So then basically, guys got to be running like this, on
mm,
the field. That's no, think about it. Basically, that's how guys got to be running now. They got to
yeah,
be running hunchback, so in case, you, so that's why I say tough call,
yeah.
and yes, as much as within the current laws, it may have been a red, but yeah, lucky to not get, a red. And I
Yeah,
felt that it was one of his, one of the games where it just didn't quite go his way. It's a gamble you take in terms of he was offsides. I think the one time,
yeah.
the first penalty, when Argentina on attack, it was 13 offsides, and then, it's those sort of things where it just it from that point of view, it wasn't working out for him, But I didn't think he had a particularly bad game, because we saw when he came back off of
Yeah.
the sin bin, his impact when it comes to the chase, his value there because
That's and
now
that's
it's a
that's
different
exactly what I was gonna say, in that he had a strong
yeah
game in terms of kick
yeah
chase,
other
competing,
things.
other things
Yeah,
in the game where a lot of people will remember those moments.
yeah,
Especially when he went for the intercept, it could have been a red. So
yes,
they'll remember those moments, but throughout the game, I felt like he played well. Even interplay,
yeah.
he's got that attacking intent. So for me, I felt like he had a strong game despite the goings on. Oh, yeah,
It's part of the learning process for him within that
yeah,
channel, because we've said it before, quarters 13 is a technical position, and can you imagine even at test level,
mm,
he's gonna get there to become a world-class 13,
yeah,
and the only way that that happens is if he plays there. Let him, he's gonna make those errors, he's going to make those misreads, but he's going to learn from it better and better and better, and for me, it's just you got to keep him there. You got to keep backing him, because
yeah.
that's where that's his future for me at 13.
Yeah, for me, I have to. I think it was a fair decision. The yellow, there was head-on-head contact. I think it's a bit
Yeah.
of a stretch to go for a red there. Also, like we say, it's not a refereeing podcast. My only
Yeah,
take about the current laws is that it favors, well, it disadvantages tall players and like bigger players like props because you're willing to let the guy run into you because you can absorb the impact.
yeah,
So, smaller guys, like you say, it's easier to go chop down low, but bigger guys, they're like, no, I can take the impact here.
yeah.
It's
I can take this
fine.
collision.
Yeah, so it does tend to disadvantage taller players and bigger players that are willing to absorb
Mm,
contact. Other things, few knock-ons early, execution.
yeah,
You talk about execution. For me, it's those knock-ons and then Sasha kicking the ball too far when it comes to the up and unders and that. And then what happens is Argentina can just call the mark, then they boot it all the way
Yeah,
down, and then you find that we are now suddenly the ones that are defending and we're under pressure. So execution in
yeah,
terms of the ball got dropped a few times, lineouts were a bit iffy, and then
yeah.
yeah,
If he, no, they were not the worst, man. We've
yeah,
seen,
no, yeah,
in this period, we've seen some suspicious ass lineouts where now it was, where it's like, okay,
yeah.
those are the
I
ones
guess it's
where,
also because we have a high standard. We have a high standard in terms of that,
yes,
and especially the other game, we troubled them so well, especially defensively. But Moodie going off. So now, when it came to scrums, Boks was seven, still dominant at scrum time, and it
yo,
was something
what a
that
scrum.
persisted the whole game, basically until the last 5 or 10 minutes, where Argentina
What a
decided to come
scrum.
to the party at scrums. And they're defending. I mean, sorry, they're scrumming with seven, pushing them back, and Peter Steph to is playing scrum off.
Playing nine. The biggest nine in the world, the biggest nine in the world. I mean, look, that's impressive. That was very impressive, to see is that, you can see the guys they back their techniques, they back their preparation and what they've been
Yeah,
doing.
an interesting coaching call to do that because it's not something that you
Yeah.
would think. I'm a man down at center.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was also surprised to see that because then I thought about it. I was like, okay, it makes sense. You push your nine back into the back line. You just you cover that, and your nine is also your kicking option in the event that these guys, because it was in their 22. In case in their half, in case these guys they want to, they're going to kick it. You've got your ball
yeah.
player back there. Possibly receiving the kick, and guys can launch from there. So yeah, good, good to see, good thinking, and then the power of the scrum. I mean, look, that's the bread and butter that we want to see all the time. You're not always going to get it your way because, you know, the interpretations, but yeah, in this game, I think the sort of the platform was already laid. It was just the execution that was, lacking in this game, and
Yeah.
also, at times just a bit of, the punch was a bit lacking. Where we fell off a bit in certain stages of this game. But that's credit also to Argentina because obviously, like you said, they would want to have an answer. They'd want to come back. They also have their own pride to play for. So,
Yeah.
it was always going to be a different game to what Durban was.
Yeah, then only around kind of like the 20-minute mark, that's when we started to get the territory. That's where we started to receive kicks around the halfway mark, and then we want to
Mhm.
play. That's when you see
Yeah,
Sasha making those breaks,
those breaks. Yeah,
and
yeah.
we getting to pin them deeper and deeper in their half and in their 22. Uh, 5 meter scrum, Argentina ball, but the crowd is celebrating like they celebrated like it was a try. It's not even our
Yeah,
ball on the scrum, and they celebrated like the crowd was really electrified for a scrum, which again, like you said, it's our bread
yeah,
and butter. It's something that we heavily rely on.
yeah. It's what you want to see because you know that there's a chance. There's a chance for to contest. There's a chance because that's what rugby is about. It's about the contest, right? So it's a chance
Mhm.
to contest, and we know, we can contest it, and potentially get something out of it. So and I mean, if we're being completely honest, that was what got the excitement going was the scrum. Because for me, just personally watching that game, it was a difficult one to watch.
Yeah, first half especially.
Yeah, so yeah, yes, the scrum is exciting.
Other
Sometimes,
moments, intercept attempt by Moodie. Again, for me, the right call in terms of he had a chance to catch it, and again, I think
yeah.
it's kind of a reach if you're calling for anything else.
I mean, come on, man. That's the thing. Again, different referees on the day, they call that thing different. And that's the thing that frustrates me about rugby is that the interpretation. It's got to be. It's never A or B. Because it
Mm.
depends on who's looking because they can see C and D. You know, so for me, fair call, because he was in the position to catch the ball. It's not like he
Yeah.
was not, like the referee said, and I quite like that. He said, no, he was in the position to catch the ball. And when you saw it on the other angle, you can see that, yeah, he really was, because, and that's just a knock on, because it's not like he was reaching, his whole person was
Mm.
there. It's just that he didn't catch it. So, I mean, yeah, for me,
Yeah, then
that's okay.
other moments, Willems, he had a nice kind of he passed it to Moodie. Moodie hit the line at a nice angle. Willemse looped. He tried to get the ball away, and it was hit
Mm,
back by Argentina. And then Willemse on the ground in the 22, getting the penalty back for the Boks. It's game.
yeah,
It's things like that it's difficult to. On the stats, it just shows a turnover. But what that did
yeah,
for the team was massive because now we've got a penalty in their 22. What happens? We
yeah,
kick for line, and then oh no, they chose the scrum option. Then in scrum
yeah, yeah,
option, get the advantage, you play. They come back, scrum option, get the advantage, scrum option, then he scores on the third. So
yeah,
there's moments like that. I thought that was very big for Phillips, and Reina gets the try. Go into halftime 13-10 down, but it doesn't seem like we're in any trouble at all. I'm sitting there and I'm
yeah.
like, it's we're not in the second gear yet. We're not in the second gear, and
Yeah, the
and
diesel engine was still warming up.
mm,
It's like it took time, It's like it took time. But I felt that I felt the ref was swallowing his whistle a bit there, because how many penalties are you going to allow, before you discipline somebody, especially there at scrum time. We all knew, because I mean there was even one where he said to them that no, if you guys collapse this thing on purpose, or yeah, get the set wrong on purpose, it's going to
yeah,
be a full arm. So it's like he was aware that what Argentina that they didn't want to scrum. So
yeah.
for me, it was like, yeah, after you say that, you must make a decision, bro. But look,
I
alas,
was fine. I was fine with it. Let the boys play. Let the boys play.
yeah,
After halftime, Argentina they get their own high shot there on Etzebeth penalty, and then again relying going back to the strength of the maul. Marks get
yeah,
over. Marks had a good game in terms of
he did.
he scored twice, but he also on the ground had a few
Yes,
vital
he
turnovers
did.
and just all around good play from him. I think kind of besides Reinach's gonna get man of the match because of the tries. But besides
Yeah,
that,
look,
Mox was up there in terms of top performers for Boks.
he was very important, and I think even just for even Marks to get into those positions, you have to now, go back to the sort of tackle effect, the effectiveness of the tackle, that was put in, because defensively when the guys were making the shots, they were getting the shots and getting out of the breakdown quick enough for the jacklet to be there. And one for me that sticks out is one where I think it was Sia made a hit, and then Marks got the turnover where,
Yeah.
especially it was early on first off where Argentina were trying to press. So things like that where you can see that, like you were saying, there were those things that remind you that no, this is why this team is this team. They can do those things and get themselves out of certain positions. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I
that
think
exact
Marks was
thing. It's that exact thing, even in terms of the effectiveness that we saw in patches. Other patches you see box kick, you put them under pressure, you get the scrum, then you get the penalty.
yeah,
It's that kind of series of play that we had throughout.
yeah, yeah,
Especially with Reinach's second try. Then they just went same side forwards, forwards, forwards. RG gets
yeah.
the fast recycle, Reinach's second try. So
Yeah, that
it's
was a good one. That
yeah,
offload off the ground in contact. The value of RG in that, where you see in those in contact in those close spaces how he's able to get the ball out. There's very few players in world rugby that can do that. That's so important because let's say he goes down and he places that ball, Reinach doesn't score that try. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
he still has to pick that ball up
Yeah.
and then try and get out. He doesn't score that try. Just momentum, momentum, momentum. And it was good to see.
Yeah, then we had Tialendi again, another moment where we actually playing with him with that little kick through and again
Yeah,
get penalties there, penalties there. Marks landed up tidying up there, getting his second try. And Colby, another head loss. It's something that's
no,
it's gonna be a trademark
no,
of his tournament.
no, leave him alone. I stand by what I said. Lost. They must leave him alone, man.
Yeah, I know.
You
Even I stand. I'm with you. It's just we must say
but
we must say what happened. We must say what.
but what was he thinking?
You know, even the English guys in the stands were shouting, "Pass it to Colby! Pass it to Colby!"
Yo, I was just like, it's like, what was going on? I don't know what he was seeing there because even on the reverse angle, you see where that pass went. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there was just maybe miscommunication or whatever, guys.
Uh,
Because even when that pass went, it looked like it was a pass to nobody, or he was expecting somebody to be running
yeah.
onto the ball. I can see what he was thinking, but I don't see what he was doing.
For me, it was the vibes took him. It was the vibes. You know, the game was starting to loosen up, and he was just, yeah, hey, let's just, it was starting to, because I mean, at
It
that
was like,
point,
let's play, let's
yeah, at
joel,
that
or let's
point,
let's
it's
joel
it's
these guys.
it's it's 13-29 to South Africa. So
Yeah, he was like,
at
no,
that
let's
point,
joel
you
these
you've got
guys.
a big lead. You've got a big lead. So now he's like, no, let's roll the dice a bit. Let's let's
Let's
let's
let's.
shake.
It was like, no, no, we can. He was like, no, we can do this.
Yeah, in that moment it's double or nothing. It's a swing because then we if he gets that ball out to someone, we're gonna score. So he
We could have
was,
scored. That's the
yeah. So he went
true,
betway.
true,
He went
because
betway. He said, "No, I'm rolling here. I'm putting my money." And unfortunately, the house won at that time, Argentina. And then, but I mean,
hey
even at
man,
that point, what is it? I think it was 29 at that minute with kind of, even at that
yeah,
point, it kind of looked like it was wrapped up because I didn't see Argentina scoring 10 points in the last 10,
yeah.
15
But it
minutes.
was it was it was it was close there at the end, though.
Yeah.
Had he got those
Yeah,
three
the
points,
penalty when Vessels
hey,
put in the late tackle, that was the only time. And Vessels had a good
that was
performance off the
yes, that
bench
was
for
unnecessary.
yeah, but that was unnecessary. That was
Yeah,
the a quote unquote bonehead play. Like, what are you like?
yeah,
It was totally unnecessary. But
yeah.
I have to say that he had good impact for what
He did.
the third game in a row. Quaka
He
also
did.
had good
Yeah.
impact. But yeah,
Yes.
that was the only time where you're like, okay, now the waters are getting a bit choppy now. Where it was,
Yeah.
but besides that, I didn't really feel like Spring was in any trouble except for that moment, and then obviously it came off the post.
Yeah. Yeah. Outside of that, yeah, no, for real, Quarters, I agree with you there. It is. I think we're always in control, especially once we have that lead. You know,
Yeah,
and sometimes I think it's also a reminder, to not be complacent. And for the basics to not be, how can I say, the basics to not be thrown out the window. Things like communication, being clear about, okay, this is what we're going to do here and here. And doing that. We see a lot of that, yes, but in moments like that, we just keeping our heads. And like you say, on another day, it pays off, and it's goodbye nurse, bonus point. And we do, we've dusted them up nicely. So yeah, but those things, they happen, and players do go through those spells, and you don't just throw guys away after they've given you so much,
yeah,
after they've given you so much, because as much as, yeah, look, there's those small little areas, but who's better than Kobe? Yeah, the
yeah. I
guys that
think
can compete, but who's better? And then, like you said, the guys that have the impact, your uninjured vessels. Look, yes, special projects,
yeah,
he's been put in the express lane, and it's
mm,
starting to pay off now. Fine, it's okay, but you know we were right to call it out, or to question, and we're also right to give flowers where they're due. To say, yeah, look, he's delivering. So yeah.
yeah. And that wraps it up for Rugby Championship. That
Hmm.
from the first game, I think of what Ox said after the first loss. He said there's still a lot to play for. Me, I'm even thinking,
Yeah.
this guy is eating too much cake. It's making him crazy. But it did.
Yeah.
There was a lot to play for,
Too much.
and it was the competitive tournament that we saw. And yeah, it wraps it up nicely, puts us in a good position. And moving on, I guess there's a little bit of URC action for guys to push and
Yeah.
stake their claim, even the guys in the team to try and get some form. I know there'll be a lot of
to get some form,
guys.
get minutes going. Yeah,
Yeah, there'll be guys that will want to get some form to get their caps, and I'm sure even this weekend we'll see some of them
yeah.
included.
I know the Sharks. We need the guys that we can get, because man, things are not looking good here. We're out here drawing games. Where we should be winning games. It's yes, granted, URC is looking like it's tougher and tougher to win away from home, but
Yeah,
geez, man, you know, um, yeah, look, we can't take this anymore from, and it doesn't get any easier for the Sharks, coming up this weekend because I think they've got Leinster straight,
yep.
and Leinster will be very, very upset about the South African tour, so I, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, like you said, we've got Scarlets hosting Stormers. Stormers, good start for them first two games.
yeah.
Benetton hosting the Lions. The Lions, it was competitive, and then it got stolen there at the end, which is kind of the story of the
And it won't
season
be
for
easy
them.
against Benetton as well, though, eh? Yeah, it's their history lies against they lose things at the end, in the end. You know?
Yeah, so it's an ongoing theme there. Like you said, Leinster hosting Sharks. They should have a few guys back, at least two guys back. And then Ulster hosting the Bulls. I'm sure the Bulls, I think Pollard is on tour and that, so we should see the face of the franchise back.
Yeah, yeah, it's a tough one. It's not easy to win away from home, but yeah, the USC guys they need to, ride that high of the
Hmm.
championship. Yeah, that's the opportunity, So yeah, hopefully we'll see some guys getting the game time, better results, especially for me for the Sharks. And then yeah, it's just looking forward to the coming rounds and end of your tour courts.
Yeah, any closing remarks?
Look, I think I've said all I needed to say, I have quotas. I have with the Sharks. The Sharks, they must know. I may not be the boss of the Sharks, but that coaching staff is on notice. They are on notice. You'll say I didn't tell you, but anyway.
That's it from us, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.